The title kind of reminds me of Yahtzee's joke about the Amnesia games. Calling a Doctor Who book genocide is like calling a first-person shooter Bullet. Like, you think it only just comes up in New Who because of the Time War, but even in the classic series, a lot of stories either featured a genocide, took place in the aftermath of a genocide, or involved preventing a genocide. After some ominous framings and cold opens, the Doctor and Sam turn up in an alternative version of Earth history, where there are no humans, just a utopia of highly intelligent horse people with 4 eyes, who treat the planet better, absorb information through taste, and recycle books by burying them in the dirt. It turns out that the existence of this new universe is threatening both it and the old universe that the Doctor and Sam know, so it becomes readily apparent that the Doctor's got to... well, we've already discussed the title. The B-plot is about 2 archaeologists getting harassed by a unit captain when they discover some strange new human skulls. He's actually working for the aliens, but one of their friends is actually Jo Grant, so they call her up out of retirement for some help. This side of the book is probably the bit I'm going to have the most notes on, because I'm not entirely sure that Jo was here in the early drafts of this book, but it does still feel like Jo, and they actually do really interesting things with her. This isn't just nostalgia. She doesn't even have that many interactions with the Doctor. And it doesn't even do the whole school reunion thing. I mean, there's a tiny bit of that when we establish what her life is like these days. But I feel like she's more used to explore the themes of this book. And it does so in a almost sacrilegious way, which I actually really appreciate. Yeah, at the end of this book, beloved children's TV character Jo Grant chooses violence.
Girl power! Yay!
It's almost character breaking in ways I've heard, say, Blood Heat was. And it's not undone. I'm honestly surprised the writer was able to take it to this level, but have it still feel like Jo. You may disagree, but I think it somehow fits both the character and what the story was trying to do really deftly. From the start of this book, I thought it was setting up a moral dilemma, which I was a bit nervous about, because Doctor Who moral dilemmas are usually compounded by what's practical. The Tractites aren't going to be around at the end of the story because we need Earth to resemble ours as much as possible for future stories. But it's not quite that. The only character that I'd say has any real agency is one of the Tractites, Kittig. And he's probably the best character in this. He's pushed and pulled between what's familiar to him and what he can trust versus what he believes and how good he thinks the Doctor and Sam are. And he's probably the only one who comes out this with his hands somewhat clean. This whole story is basically about the humans and the Tractites stuck in a paradox loop, out-terminating each other in a desperate attempt to hold on to their own, to keep their own safe, to keep their homes and their futures preserved. So when Jo ends up gunning down a Tractite settlement in a desire to get back to her own time and her own home and her own family, the same desire that the villain has, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Just ignore me. I brought flowers, which was silly, really. I mean, there's no need, is there? But, well, I saw these lilies and I thought they were appropriate.
I should also stress, this is not a one-on-one allegory, I think, with anything. And it's definitely for the better that way. It's an exploration of the cycle of violence and paranoia. Different people making the same terrible mistakes with pretty similar motivations. It's the same with the character of Jacob Hines. It's kind of like a Invasion of the Dinosaurs situation where, yes, you could make a reading of where the story sides on environmentalism, but it'd be a bit one note and it would be missing the full picture. And again, no one in this, I feel like, is really a one-on-one allegory. Early on, the story touches on environmentalism, and there's a question of whether the Tractites would be better owners of Earth. Sam certainly feels that they seem to take better care of their environment. But as we go on, the word deserve it just gets abandoned entirely. I don't want to completely sing the book's praises because I do think the pacing is a little bit off. I think the two archaeologist characters at the start, they got killed off in a very grim and conciliatory fashion, and I suspect the reason that is because they're very well set up early on, and I feel like Joe took the place in the climax of the book, so he didn't really know what to do with them. Which is a shame. I got quite attached to Rowena in particular. I thought she was a very solid depiction and representation of being differently abled. I've got a parent with multiple sclerosis, and I think the book reasonably captured the experience that comes with. But sadly, she is killed off by wild dogs halfway through, and that was unfortunate. Sam's pretty decent in this one. She's the kind of companion who could not work at all in the show because at this point she's not asking questions about what's going on out of spite, almost. She has a very one-sided competitive relationship with how much of an enigma this doctor seems to be and how she doesn't quite get what's going on all the time. Her and the Doctor's relationship has almost completely broken down, and it's kind of funny that it's only taken 3 books for this to happen. And this is now the 3rd story in a row in which the Doctor has tried to do the right thing, and there's been a lot of lives lost. I like the idea that they've just taken this really sweet, affable Doctor from the TV movie and putting him in so many morally dubious, painful situations in every week. They're going to break him, and so far I'm here for that. So that was Genocide. The more I think about it, the more I like it. Not as good as Vampire Science, but a definite step up from the Body Snatchers. I think next time it will be a V&A review. I'll maybe try and get another Past Doctor adventure, maybe something else with the First Doctor, and I definitely want to have Alien Bodies reviewed before the year is done. God, what does it take to get these people to unsubscribe from me? I fuck off for a month and a half, and yet they keep coming. Maybe I've got to do something drastic, like, I don't know, defend Series 7B. No!